Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well today. If you're new to my channel, you're welcome to my channel. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe. Please turn on your notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Today, I'll be making a lovely blouse. I'll be using this fabric for it. This is for the front and this is for the back. The front is folded into two. The back is folded into two also. The back is 1.5 inches bigger than the front because of zip allowance. This is for the upper part of the blouse. To know how many fabric you put on fold, you will use your biggest measurement. Her biggest measurement is her bust measurement. Her bust measurement is 38. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5 plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. You can use up to 2 inches seam allowance. Is 11 inches. 9.5 plus 1.5 is 11 inches. The measurement will start from here, the center front, because this is zip allowance. So this is starting line. Because this is off shoulders blouse, I'll take off some inches from the upper part. If you like, you can minus 4 inches, 5 inches or 6 inches, but I'm going to minus 5 inches. So I'll put 5 inches on this line. This is 5 inches. I'll mark her chest line. Her round armhole is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. This is 9 inches. 9 inches is her chest line. Her waist measurement is 16 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance to join it to the lower part. I'll mark the same on this side. I'll mark the same, then I'll connect the line. This is starting line, chest line, waist line, her half length. On this starting line, I'll put half of her shoulder measurement. Her shoulder measurement is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. 7.5. Her bust measurement is 38. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5 plus 1.5 inches seam allowance, 11 inches. This is 11 inches. Her waist measurement is 32. 32 divided by 4 is 8 inches. Plus 1 inch for that, 9 inches. And 1.5 inches seam allowance, 10.5 inches. I'll mark 10.5. 10.5. I'll connect it to this point. Here I'll mark her neck width. Her shoulder measurement, I'll come in by 2 inches. You can come in by 1.5 inches or 2 inches. 7.5 minus 2 inches is 5.5. 5.5 plus half inch seam allowance, 6 inches. 6 inches. On this 6 inches, I'll connect it to this point. 9.5 inches, quarter of her bust measurement. So I'll cut it. I'll also mark the dart. From this center front line, I'll mark half of her bust span measurement for that. 4 inches. Her bust span measurement is 8 inches divided by 2 is 4. I'll mark 4 inches for that. 4 inches. I'll notch it. I'll also notch zip allowance. this is the starting line. This is for the front, this is for the back. So this is for the back. I want to curve the neckline. Here I will come down by 2 inches. From these 2 inches, I will curve it. So I'll cut this into 2 for zip. This is for the back. I'll use it to cut out the lining. This is for the front. I'll curve the neckline. Here you can come down by 2.5 inches, 1.5, 2 inches, depending on how deep you want it. But I want 2 inches. This is 2 inches. I'll curve it to this side. I'll put this way. You can use any neckline of your choice. This is for the front. I will use it to cut out the lining. I'm going to cut the lower part of the blouse. To cut the lower part of the blouse, I'll minus the upper part of the blouse from the full length of the blouse. The upper part of the blouse is 16 inches. From her shoulder to her waistline is 16 inches. The full length of the blouse is 25 inches. 25 minus 16 is 9 inches. Plus 1 inch seam allowance, 10 inches. 1 inch, half inch to join it to the upper part and half inch to stitch it to lining. I will use full circle for the lower part of the blouse, but I'll add some inches to pleats. To get the waist radius, I'll work with her waist measurement. Her waist measurement is 32 plus 2 inches seam allowance for zip is 34 inches. To know how many inches you add for the pleat, you will know how many pleats that you want and how many inches that you want for each pleat. I want 8 pleats. I want 4 inches for each pleat. So I will times 4 by 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 plus her waist measurement plus 2 inches seam allowance, which is 34 inches. 32 plus 34 inches is 66 inches. So 66 inches, I will use 66 inches to get her waist radius. Because it's full circle, I will divide 66 by 6.28. 66 divided by 6.28 is 10.5. 10.5 plus 10 inches is 20.5. 10 inches is the length of the lower part that I want to cut. 20.5. So I'll make sure that I have 20.5 times 2 on this side. I'll measure 20.5. This is 20.5. I'll fold it. I have 20.5 times 2. I have more than that. I'll just fold it this way. On this side, I'll make sure that I have 20.5 times 2 on this side. This is 20.5. I have more than that because the fabric is by 45. So I'll fold it into 4. The fabric is folded into 4. This is the folded side. I'll mark 10.5 waist radius, 10.5. I'll connect it from 10.5. I'll mark 10 inches, the length of the lower part, 10 inches. From upper part here, I'll measure to see what I have. I have 20.5. I'll measure 20.5. I'm going to cut it. This is waist radius. This is the length of the peplum, 10.5. So I'll cut it this way. Okay. So this is the peplum. I'll cut out the lining. I've cut out the lining the same way. I'll cut it into two. I will use horsehair braid for this or crinoline. If you don't have it, if you want, you can use hard gun stay on your fabric. So I'll put it this way. Right side together, main fabric lining. I'll put it this way. I will stitch it. After that, I'll top stitch on the lining side. So this is for the front. I will stitch the main fabric and the lining together. I'll put it right side together. I will stitch it using 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'll also stitch the armhole because of the way I'll fix the sleeve. Normally, I don't stitch armhole. I'll just stitch this way. This is for the back. Here, if you want, you can come in by 1/2 inch. I'll put it this way, right side together. I'll stitch it using 1/2 inch seam allowance, lining and the main fabric together. I'll also do the same on this. I've stitched lining and the main fabric together. I first stitch at the neckline. After that, I notch and top stitch before I now stitch the two sides. I've pressed it. I've turned it to the right side and press it. I did the same on the back one. To stitch the dart, I'll fold it this way. I notch the dart. Or from center front, I'll measure half of her bust part measurements, which is 8 inches divided by 2, 4 inches. Measure 4 inches. So, but I have notch here for that, 4 inches. So from this side, you can see it's not equal again. So on this side is 7 inches. This is off shoulders minus 5 off shoulders plus 2 inches for neck depth, which is 7 inches. So I'll put 7 inches on the edge here to mark her bust point. Minus 5 inches for the off shoulders and minus 2 inches to curve it for the neck width. So 7 inches. Her bust point is 10 inches. I'll come down by 1 inch, which is 11 inches. This is 11 inches here. So here I'll measure 4 inches. This is 4 inches. I have another 4 inches on this side, the notch. So on this notch, which is 4 inches, I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides and connect it to this point. So now I'm going to stitch the dart. I'll hold it this way. I'll hold the notch, the center notch. I'll stitch it 1/2 inch. I'll do the same on this side. I have a notch. This is for the back. This is the neckline. I had 1.5 inches on this side, but I used 1/2 inch to stitch the line and the main fabric. I have 1 inch left, so if I should measure it this way, I'll measure 5 inches on this side, but I already have notch here for that, which is the same 5 inches. So on this side, this is minus 7 inches. I minus 5 inches first and another 2 inches for neck depth, which is 7 inches. So I'll put 7 inches on this line. This is her chest line, 9 inches. Her chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch, which is 10 inches. From shoulder, this is 10 inches. From this side, 5 inches. I have notch on this side. I'll connect this line to the notch, straight line. So on this straight line, I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides, half. I'll connect it, or I'll just fold it this way. I'll just fold it this way and stitch it 1/2 inch and stitch it to this point. I'll do the same on this one. After stitching the dart, I'll stitch these two together. I'll put it this way, right side together. I'll mark 1 inch and stitch it on the 1 inch line, or I have notch here for zip allowance. I'll stitch it on the zip allowance line. It's still 1 inch. This is for the front. I've stitched the darts. This is for the back. I stitched the two sides together using gather stitches because I'll fix zip later. I also stitched the darts. What I'll do now is to stitch the front and the back together. I'll put it right side together. Her bust measurement is 38. 38 divided by 2 is 19. I'll check what I have. I have 21 inches. 21 inches. 21 minus 19 is 2 inches. So the remaining 2 inches, I'll mark 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. Her waist measurement is 32. 32 divided by 2 is 16. I have 18 inches. 18 minus 16 is 2 inches. 2 inches, I'll divide it into 2. 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. I'll mark 1 inch, 1 inch. I'll connect it. I'll stitch on it. I'll do the same on this side. I've stitched the front and the back together. What I'll do next is to cut out the sleeve. To cut out the sleeve, I'll work with her round shoulder measurement. Her round shoulder measurement is 40 inches. I'll minus her round shoulder measurement from her neck width. Her front neck width is 11 inches and her back neck width is 11 inches. You remember, I measured the neck width 5.5 inches plus 1/2 inch seam allowance, but I've used 1/2 inch seam allowance to tidy up this side. So I have 5.5 on this side and 5.5, which is 11 inches. 11 inches for the front, 11 inches for the back. 11 plus 11 is 22 inches. 22 minus 40 is 18 inches. 18 inches, I'll divide it into 2. 18 divided by 2 because of the two sleeves is 9 inches on this side and 9 inches on this side. This is for the sleeve. It's pleated sleeve. I'll pleat it 9 inches for each side. I have 11.5 inches. I'll use 1 inch for seam allowance to stitch the lining, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So I add interfacing on it to make it firm. This is wadding, lightweight wadding. You can use interfacing of your choice, or if you're using plain fabric, you can use scuba fabric or foam fabric. You don't need to add interfacing on scuba fabric or very thick fabric. To turn it with lining, I'll put it this way, right side together. I will stitch it together, but I will leave space to bring it out. After that, I'll give it a good press. So this is for the sleeve. I've stitched the lining and the main fabric together. I turn it to the right side and give it a good press. What I'll do now is to pleat the sleeve, to pleat it. So there's no measurement for it. I'll measure like 1.25 or 1.5. I'll use 1.25. 1.25. 1.25. I'll fold it. To stitch it, so this is 1.25, but I'll stitch on 1 inch. I'll come in 0.25, 0.25. I'll mark it. I'll stitch on 0.25 to the end. You can use 1.5. You can stitch on 1/2 inch to the end. So this will be 1 inch after stitching it. It will be 1 inch. You can use 1 inch. You can use 0.75 depending on what you want. I've stitched it. So I'll stitch another one. If you want, you can fold it like this. You can eyeball it and stitch, or I'll measure like 1.5 or 1.25, 1.25, and fold it. I have 1.25. From here, I'll measure 1 inch and stitch on 1 inch. I'll have 0.25 here in the middle, the gap between the two. But if you want, you can use up to 1 inch, the gap between the two, or 0.5, the gap. It depends on what you want. So I'll go and plait it till I get to how many inches that I want. This is the peplum. I've stitched them together. I gave it a good press. This is for the upper part of the blouse. This is zip allowance. I will remove the gather stitches. So this is the upper part of the blouse. I'll pleat one on this zip allowance side towards this side. I'll count it as 1. And this is the back dart 2, side seam 3, front dart 4, center front 5, another front dart 6, side seam 7, and back dart 8. So this will make up the first one. I'll pleat one towards this side also. I'm going to stitch the lower part of the blouse to the upper part of the blouse. I will pleat it. I will turn it this way. This is the center front. I have a notch. This is midpoint. I'll pin it together. This is the lower part. From this midpoint, I will measure 1 inch. 1 inch. From this 1 inch, I will measure another 1 inch. So from midpoint is 2 inches. 1 inch, 1 inch. I will repeat the same on this side. I will measure 1 inch, 1 inch, which is from here 2 inches. 1 inch, another 1 inch, from this midpoint. This is 1 inch. I'll hold this one, the second 1 inch. I'll push it this way to the midpoint. I'll pin it. So this is the midpoint, 1 inch, 1 inch. This second 1 inch, I'll hold it to the midpoint. I'll pin it. So I'll pleat the remaining ones. After pleating it, I will stitch it. This is the blouse. I've stitched the upper and the lower part together. I pleated it. This is the zip line. I pleated it this way. One of the back dart, side seam, one of the front dart, center front, one of the back dart, one of the front dart, I mean, side seam, one of the back dart, zip allowance, only one this way. So what I'll do next is to fix the sleeve. After fixing the sleeve, I will use bias to tidy up this waistline. Then I'll fix the zip and put it on the mannequin. If you want, you can use more than 8 pleats. The upper part, if you want, you can use bustier for it. What I'll do next is to fix the sleeve. This is the sleeve. I have another one. I will stitch it on top. It's 9 inches, no seam allowance because I'm going to stitch it on the top. When you are making yours, please use matching lining and matching thread. You remember I have 0.25 here. You can use up to ½ inch. 0.25. I will stitch it on the edge. I'll put it this way. I'll stitch it to this point. I'll put it this way and stitch it. I'll repeat the same on this side and also on the other sleeve. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.